Movies. All right, Jimbo, here we are. We have, so Disney owns, who runs the world? Not girls, it's Disney. Disney is going to release a ton of movies in 2020. We thought last year was the year of Disney. Last year, they probably have more higher grossing films, but this year I think they just have more in terms of quantity because they did inherit Fox this past year. They had a merger, and so now they own all of Fox's properties, and so that kind of bolsters their numbers of movies that are going to be released. Now, some of these are going to be straight to Disney Plus, but for the most part, these are going to be in theaters. So what I thought we would do is you give us the rundown of the movies that are coming out and when they're coming out, and then I'll just kind of give you some thoughts on it, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, this list is actually pretty impressive. I just did a quick count. It's almost 20.
It's a lot. I mean, again, it's like 2 studios worth of movies.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right, rapid fire. Here we go. Call of the Wild, February 21st.
Yeah, so this is Harrison Ford. He's starring in a movie that's based on a book about a guy who befriends a rescued St. Bernard Scotch Collie mix named Buck, and he and Buck join this mail delivery dog sled team. It's not something that I particularly would go my way to see. I might try to catch it if it's on Disney Plus later on, which I'm sure it eventually will be. But Rotten Tomatoes does currently have it at 70%. So, I'm sure it's an enjoyable film, is what I would say.
Up next, Onward, opening March 6th.
Yeah, so this is Pixar's next entry, and this stars Chris Pratt and Tom Holland. So, Star-Lord and Spider-Man as 2 brothers who are elves, also starring the likes of Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Octavia Spencer, and Ali Wong. And it's set in this mythical land of like elves and unicorns and trolls, etc. Kind of a heavy premise. It's about 2 brothers whose father died a long time ago, but there's this magic spell where they get to reunite with their dad for a day. And so they're trying to basically link up with their dad. Pixar is always known for pulling they get the waterworks going. This is already projected to have one of the lower earning releases of a Pixar film, but I'm sure it's still going to be just super emotional. So I'm looking forward to it.
Up next, one I'm really looking forward to, Mulan, opening on March 27th.
Yeah, so I've been real skeptical of a lot of the live action films that Disney's put out because a lot of them have just been gratuitous retreads. You got The Lion King, you've had Aladdin, and from what I know, the ones I saw Aladdin, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. It didn't do anything special for me. It was just safe and predictable. And Lion King was more the same from people I know who watched it. But Mulan looks interesting. The trailers already look exciting. This one seems like it's not going to try to do some cheesy, safe retelling. In fact, if anything, it feels like it's going to try to be its own standalone imagination of the film. As far as I know, there's no Mushu or Eddie Murphy dragon there. So I think it could actually be really good. And I'm pretty excited for that one.
All right, opening up on April 3rd, New Mutants.
So, Jim, this was a carryover from Fox. And again, Disney, you're going to see there's going to be a lot of movies on this list that you're like, that seems odd. And the reason for that is because it's not it's not really a Disney film, but now it technically is. But New Mutants was a holdover from the X-Men franchise that was supposed to release a couple years ago. Disney inherited it with their Fox merger, as I mentioned. You'll recognize the likes of Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones and Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things. But this one's going to be darker than previous X-Men films, with exception to Logan and maybe the Deadpool franchise. But this is supposed to be more of a horror story involving mutants, and so could be gritty, but this one is likely to be a straight to Disney Plus release.
All right, next up is Black Widow, opening on May 1st.
So this is another entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Black Widow, as played by Scarlett Johansson. Exciting that she's finally getting her time in the sun. I think it's a long time coming, and she's definitely deserved it. So spoiler alert, make note, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, I'm about to give away a big spoiler, but it's been so long. Shame on you if you haven't seen it. So unfortunately, Black Widow does die in an Avengers Endgame. She sacrifices herself. And so the Black Widow movie is a prequel to Endgame. I'm not entirely sure where the timeline of it fits. I know it's going to introduce a lot. It's going to really play up her backstory. It's not so much an origin story, but a one-off. I'm curious. I'm going to see it because it's going to be great, but I just feel like it's a little too late for this movie to be made. Like if this had come out 3 years ago, yeah, I would have been excited about it. Probably more so, but it doesn't feel like it's moving the continuity of the story along. Maybe they're going to introduce some interesting characters that have impact going forward, but I feel like they should have gotten to this sooner. Nonetheless, I'm sure it's going to be great. Good for Scarlett Johansson. Good for Black Widow. It's about time.
The Woman in the Window, May 15th.
Okay, starring Amy Adams as a nosy neighbor who witnesses some dark goings-on across the street. This is another Fox film Disney inherited. It's gritty, it's dark. I don't know much about it, but I know it also has the likes of what's his face from Dark Knight. He's also in Harry Potter. He's won an Oscar. You don't know names. You don't know anyone.
No.
Dang it. He played Commissioner Gordon in Dark Knight. You know who he is.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. I'm embarrassed that I'm blanking on the name right now. Gary Oldman. Duh. So Gary Oldman is in it. A few other people are in it. I'm sure it'll be interesting, but it doesn't really feel like Disney film because it's not.
Artemis Fowl, opening May 29th.
So this is a beloved children's book, as I understand it. I never read it. It was a lot before my time. Or no, sorry, it was a lot after my time. But it's another children's book that they're trying to turn into a film franchise. It has Judi Dench and Josh Gad in it. I don't really know anything about Artemis Fowl. Don't really know anything about this. I'm sure that it will be a movie and people might watch it. So that's all I have to say about that.
Soul, opening June 19th.
This is a second Pixar film in the same summer. Kind of interesting. I don't think Pixar's ever released two in a row. Maybe they have, but I feel like this is pretty special. So talk about hitting you in the feels. This is a movie with Jamie Foxx as the protagonist. And he's a middle school music teacher who finally scores his dream gig of playing jazz before a tragic accident separates his soul from his body. Pixar has taken risks in the past. They've told very ambitious stories like Coco that has to deal with the afterlife. They just somehow the fact that Finding Nemo and Finding Dory can make me feel a certain way about fish is just testament to their storytelling ability.
Accurate.
I have no doubt. Inside Out, another thing of just the testament to emotions. I have no doubt this is going to be one that's just going to hit you in the gut. I'm curious to see what they do with it and see how they handle, the afterlife or, another spiritual realm. But Jamie Foxx is a great lead and I'm really curious.
This next one, I'm getting some Jumanji vibes on, but
yeah.
The Jungle Cruise, opening July 24th.
Yeah, this is a safe bet. I feel like it's, what you're going to get. It's a popcorn film. It's probably going to be entertaining. It's not going to be an Oscar winner per se, but I'm sure it's going to be a great film to take the family to, and you'll probably be pleasantly entertained. It's got The Rock. It's got Emily Blunt. Dwayne Johnson is this, safari guide, and Emily Blunt is someone who's looking for something, and she needs him to help her find it. I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be a good time. So there you go.
I'm reading ahead here, but man, Fox had some really dark films on their
did. Disney
list.
Some of these are not Mickey Mouse friendly films.
No. This one's The Empty Man, opening on August 7th.
Yeah. So this was based on a graphic novel of the same name. It's about an ex-cop who witnessed the violent deaths of his wife and son before meeting a cult-like group capable of supernatural summonings.
No Mickey in this one.
Oh, no, Jim. No Mickey Mouse. This was definitely a movie they inherited from Fox. It's dark. It's not very family friendly. I don't know. Well, what's interesting is I know Disney is going to continue to release films under the 20th Century moniker, not under Fox, but under 20th Century. I imagine this will be one of those.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Next up, The One and Only Ivan, August 14th.
I don't know a lot about this. I've heard of the book. It's based on a book. It stars Sam Rockwell, Angelina Jolie, and Danny DeVito, and they're lending their voices. It's a film about a gorilla and an elephant who live in a mall. Naturally, you've heard the story 1,000 times, but what's one more? Yeah, like I said, based on a book. I don't know, but the cast is pretty strong. I'm sure it's going to be intriguing.
Next up, The King's Man, September 18th.
So this is a prequel to the Kingsman series, and there's been a couple of those. They're both very fun, entertaining films. Guy Ritchie. I mean, it's a safe bet that I'm sure this will be a by the numbers film in the franchise. Yeah, so this is also a Fox carryover.
Assuming this is also a Fox carryover, but Death on the Nile, October 9th.
Yes, based on an Agatha Christie novel of the same name about a detective investigating a murder on a cruise ship on the Nile. I've been hearing about this one in the past. I think it's probably going to have some expectations tied to it. We'll see. I love a good murder mystery, so hopefully it's fun.
Everybody's talking about Jamie, October 23rd.
So we've had a lot of entries here that are based off comics or based off, previous incarnations of a movie or books. But this one's based on a musical about a 16-year-old who wants to become a drag queen. Disney's gotten more and more progressive with a lot of their storytelling, so it makes sense that they enter this one into the mix. So I don't know a lot about it. I'm not the biggest musical person, but I do know that Disney has done really well with musicals in the past, and I'm sure that they will definitely do something pretty spectacle on this one.
The Eternals, November 6th.
So you saw a bunch of memes of Kumail Nanjiani getting shredded, and this is the reason. So as is evidenced by other comedians who take on Marvel or Disney or DC superhero roles, they just get in the best shape of their lives. And so this also stars Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Salma Hayek, and Gemma Chan. It feels like it's going to be another Guardians of the Galaxy type of film that is a departure from the more main Marvel Cinematic Universe stories. But it will also be the first MCU entry with an openly gay couple and an openly gay kiss. So again, Disney's really trying to be progressive here. I think it's going to be a fun one. Just in general, the premise is pretty outlandish. They're trying to open up their storytelling, trying to move past. I'm curious to see what they do with this and Black Widow. I know these are the first two entries in a world after Iron Man and Captain America, and it's just going to be a fascinating departure.
Up next, Deep Water, November 13th.
Feels like another Fox film here. It's a psychological thriller about a couple going through an affair and a husband who becomes a prime suspect in a disappearance case. It stars Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. So basically it's Gone Girl Part 2, because Gone Girl was a very similar premise with Ben Affleck. I don't know. I mean, Ben Affleck has done really well of tying himself to interesting movies. I think that, while the premise doesn't necessarily feel new, he's on a bit of a hot streak if you don't count Justice League. And so I'm curious to see what happens.
Up next, Raya?
Yeah, I think so.
All
Either
right,
way.
Raya and the Last Dragon, November 25th.
So this is the only Disney movie. There's other animated ones. Well, maybe not the first one, but it's a Disney original that's about a warrior searching for the last dragon in the world. Awkwafina lends her voice as the last dragon. And Disney, this is their wheelhouse. They are known for making animated films, and this is a non-Pixar film. So curious. They do a good job. I think of the likes of Zootopia or, I don't know what other recent Disney movies have been made, but this is where they shine. So sure, let's see.
And finally, West Side Story, December 18th.
So this is directed by Steven Spielberg. That alone should put butts in the seat. But this is based on the classic musical, and it's a musical that's inspired by Romeo and Juliet. So I imagine it's going to be fun. If it's at all a faithful adaptation, then it'll be an enjoyable, beloved Christmas release. I know next year In the Heights is coming out, and that's produced by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and that one will probably just do gangbusters. So I think this is also Disney just kind of priming the pump, getting people ready for more musicals, which I foresee a lot more of in Disney's future. So let's see what happens. They're also releasing Hamilton next year, so I think that will also be a good catalog entry. There's a lot on this list here, Jimbo. Do any of these stand out to you?
Oh man, there's a lot. I do notice there's a lot that don't feel like totally on brand for Disney, so it's kind of weird.
Again, the Fox merger does throw a lot into that.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally I'm most excited about Mulan.
It looks interesting
as a kid, but just seeing the new trailer,
kind
of a new take on it. Interested to see what they do with Jungle Cruise.
There's definitely, so one of the biggest gripes that we've talked about on the show is last year, it felt like Disney kept doing safe movies.
Yeah.
The safe $1 billion club, right? Remake of The Lion King, another Star Wars, another Avengers. And don't get me wrong, Avengers was awesome. And like they did a good job with the films they put out. But this year it feels like they're actually taking creative risks. And these, I'm not seeing as many established properties on there. So it almost feels like 2019 was their way of storing up for the winter, and then now they're doing what I hope they would do all along, is like, hey, we've got this whole catalog of and there's a few like familiar faces on there. There's stuff like a Pixar movie, I'm going to go regardless because it's Pixar. But overall, they're still just unique, interesting storylines. And in the Fox stuff, I think they just kind of had this. I'm sure a lot of these will be straight to Disney Plus releases if they think that. Yikes. Some of them will either be released on an off week where they're just trying to recoup some of the production budget, or they'll just send it straight to box office, home box office kind of rental. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see. I think that the two Pixar films, Onward and Soul, have my attention. I'm curious to see what Steven Spielberg does with West Side Story. But I'm also, I really I love Marvel. So obviously Eternals and Black Widow. But what I really want to know, is how they're going to do with, West Side Story. It's such a beloved story. I'm not a big musical guy, but if Disney does it well, then cool. I'd be here for that. So, but we want to know what you guys think. So let us know, engage with us on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. What do you guys want to see? What gets you excited about Disney next year? And we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, as the year goes on. So there you have it.